The figure 4 one. Figure 4 side.
So with the
You make the figure 4.
Faber test,
It's for label, right?
we're going to bring the hip into its position of flexion, abduction, external rotation. And then I'm going to just compress. I'm going to hold the opposite ASIS, and I'm going to bring this into abduction and a little bit of overpressure. Okay. So that's putting a little bit of compression on the SI joint. Okay. Just by that position. With the Faber test for the hip, the pain should be reproduced in the hip. With the Faber test for the SI joint, it should be the same SI pain. Okay? So that's the Faber test. The next one is Genslin's test. All right, so we just did the Faber for the SI joint. For those who are coming in late, just saying. And this would reproduce pain in the posterior aspect of the SI joint. I know it's too pretty to be in class today. So this would reproduce our negotiating. The next test is Genslin's test. Genslin's. Okay. With the Genslin's test, what you're going to do is bring the patient over to the side of the table. Okay, so I'm going to have her basically, so I can bring him a little bit closer, very to the edge. I won't let you fall off. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring one side into hip flexion, which creates posterior iliac rotation, and then I'm going to let the other side drop off the edge of the table. Okay? So that's Genslin's. And that's bringing her into a little bit of hip extension. Okay? Let's get a little bit closer to the edge of the table. Okay? So hip extension and anterior rotation on one side, and hip flexion and posterior rotation on the other. Okay? Just a little bit of overpressure, and that's Genslin's. If that, basically what we're doing is, winding up the whole system. Okay? And you can test both sides. I would go to the other side as well, because the anterior rotation might bother it. But that is, that would be considered a provocation test as well. So I would test left hip going into extension, and then I would walk around and test the right. Okay. I don't like this one. Never do it. But it performs well. So do you guys ever use this one? What?
Not much.
Not much.
On Fridays.
Okay. So, but I don't want to bias you too much, but I just don't like doing it. Yes.
Are you providing the pressure on the left or on the
Yes. Both. Both. Good question. Both. So yeah,
Yes.
pushing here, and then I'm pushing down. Okay.
Somebody said why, I heard somebody say, well, why don't you? Well, a lot of times it depends on your patient population, but that's putting so much torque across the pelvis in so many different planes. If you're gonna do it last, because usually you have so many other positive tests, you don't need to do this to confirm anything else.
Yeah.
And it could be years away.
Yeah.
So test the whole side.
Faber, Genslin's. The next one is the sacral, the hip abduction test. So basically, all this is, lie down isometric hip abduction. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stabilize here, and I'm going to have her push out against my hand gently, meet my resistance, and relax. Does that bother the side? And then I would go around and do the other side. Okay. So if she was having left-sided pain, okay, I would test the left side. Okay. So hip abduction is going to do what? Potentially. May create some compressive forces on the SI. Okay. So that can reproduce pain, and that also has been shown to have good reliability and validity in terms of indicating if it's a problem. Yes. Yes. Does it say it one way in the book? Okay, good. Yes. Yeah.
And with that same test, you're testing the side that's the legs off the table. So you'd be testing the left side how you showed it.
Really, with Genslin's test, people will say that you're testing both sides with that single maneuver.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I like to, if I'm gonna do it, I would go to both sides, because you're really testing one side more in anterior rotation and one in posterior rotation, so just from a, but you could argue with me and say, well, you're just torquing the system, it's a provocation test, so it's in one side's enough. Okay, that'd be fine. So, you know, I would do both sides, just to be sure. Okay. Other questions? Okay, so that's hip abduction, Genslin's, and the next two are the sacral spring and the sacral shear test. Okay, and the sacral spring is, the sacral spring is the last one you're responsible for. Okay, I won't have you do the sacral shear. Okay, the sacral spring has a little bit better performance. Okay. So with this, we're basically just on the apex of the sacrum, and he's springing it. It's just like a PA of the sacrum. Okay. So that's the sacral spring. The sacral shear, he basically is just pushing it superiorly from the IOAs. Okay, that one didn't perform as well, and it's not a typical one, so I put it in there because you might see it, but you're not responsible for that. Yes.
For the spring test, you said it's directly AP, it's not in line with the other idea?
It's a PA of the sacrum, so if the sacrum's angulated a little bit, you're perpendicular to it, because you're on the apex. Okay? So, I mean, basically, if you think of you're just moving the sacrum away from the innominate, okay, in the plane that it's in. So I'm just perpendicular on the posterior aspect. So that one's a lot less specific than some of the other ones too. Okay. All right, so I want you to practice Genslin's, hip abduction, Faber, and the spring.